America on a postcard is long highways, neon lights, and that free feeling of crossing state lines with nothing but open road ahead. But the real America has another side too. Towns where locals don't say much. They just shake their heads and tell you to keep driving and don't stop. In this video, I'm taking you through 10 of the most dangerous towns in America. In some of them, the odds of becoming a victim aren't some rare, wrong place, wrong time story. It can feel as routine as running to the store. And here's the scary part. The risk usually doesn't come from some far-off bad neighborhood. It comes from the places everyone stops without thinking. Gas stations, parking lots, convenience stores, highway motels, where one distracted minute is enough. Number 10. Pine Bluff, Arkansas. At first glance, Pine Bluff can look like a life hack. A small southern town where the price of a house can feel closer to a used SUV than a mortgage nightmare. On paper, it sounds like the kind of place you move to when you are done stressing out and ready to breathe. But Pine Bluff has a signature that locals understand instantly. The sticker price is low and the hidden cost is peace of mind. This is a town of roughly 40,000 people sitting in Arkansas's Delta Shadow, where work, family, and pride still matter. Yet the numbers paint a reality that does not match the bargain. The violent crime rate sits around 1,658 incidents per 100,000 residents, and property crime around 4,187 per 100,000. Translated into plain English, that means the risk is not abstract. It is the kind of math that changes how people park, how they lock up, and how they plan a simple stop for gas. And the cheap living story comes with an asterisk. Home values have been reported around the low 70,000 range and average rent around the high 900s. That sounds like relief until you remember what people actually pay for when safety feels uncertain. Extra security, higher stress, and the constant habit of scanning your surroundings. In Pine Bluff, I'll just pull over for a second can feel like a decision you rehearse instead of a reflex. What makes Pine Bluff even more complicated is that it is not a town with zero momentum. There is major development nearby, including a casino resort that is talked about expanding with a large hotel and event space. The area also has institutions that sound like stability on a brochure, a historically black public university and a U.S. Army facility. So the story is not simply nothing works here. The story is contrast. Investment and anxiety, opportunity and caution, hope and the daily routines of defense. Even local policing reports have pointed to short-term drops in reported crime over a specific summer window, which tells you something important. The situation can shift and people want it to improve, but reputation does not reset overnight. Habits linger. Locals do not give warnings because they enjoy fear. They give warnings because they have learned what is preventable. If you ever pass through Pine Bluff, the safest mindset is simple. Do not improvise. Fuel up earlier, keep stops short, stick to well-lit main routes, and leave nothing visible in your car, not even something that looks worthless. In a place like this, the most expensive thing you can carry is the assumption that nothing will happen. Number 9. East Point, Georgia. East Point sits in the slipstream of Atlanta, close enough that it can feel like just another exit you take without thinking. It is the kind of place travelers notice for one reason: convenience. You are near MARTA Rail, near major roads, and not far from Hartsfield-Jackson, the airport that moved about 108 million passengers in 2024. East Point even has its own station on MARTA's red and gold lines, feeding that constant flow. So if you are passing through, the temptation is simple. Pull off, grab gas, grab food, and keep moving. But East Point's signature is this: it looks like a quick stop town, while the safety math says you should treat it like a planned stop town. In national FBI-based rankings for 2024, East Point shows up at the very top among small cities and towns for homicide rate, around 79 per 100,000 residents. That is not a statistic you feel only on the nightly news. It shapes routines. Even the city's own monthly crime reports show the kind of year where serious incidents are not rare spikes. They stack up, In 2024, East Point's report lists more than 200 aggravated assaults and nearly 100 robberies, plus ongoing motor vehicle theft and larceny theft reports. The twist is that East Point is not cheap enough to explain it away. Zillow's recent estimates put the average home value around $235,000 and average rent around $1,700, with a two-bedroom near $1,450. Median household income is about $58,983, yet roughly 23% of residents fall below the poverty line. That combination creates pressure. Housing that is not bargain basement, incomes that are only so-so, and a community where stability can feel fragile block by block. Day to day, East Point can feel like two stories running at once. One story is normal suburban life. Commutes, school runs, shopping centers, the train station, the rhythm of a place connected to a major metro. The other story is the quiet rulebook locals learn. Do not improvise late. Do not stop in a dim lot because it is just for a minute. Do not leave anything visible in your car, even if it looks worthless. And if you have to stop, choose the brightest, busiest option and keep it short. That is what locals warn really means here. Not panic, not paranoia, just pattern recognition. East Point is close enough to everything that it can feel anonymous, and that is exactly why you should move through it with intention. And the next town on this list? It is another place people pass through thinking it is harmless, right up until the locals tell you the same thing. Don't treat a stop like a souvenir. Number 8. West Memphis, Arkansas. West Memphis is the kind of place most travelers do not plan to visit. They pass through it. It sits at a critical crossing of the Mississippi River, right where interstate traffic funnels between Arkansas and Tennessee. For a lot of people, it is simply the last quick stop before Memphis. Fuel up, grab something to eat, maybe stretch your legs, then keep moving across the bridge. And that is exactly what makes West Memphis dangerous in a very specific way. This is not a vacation town risk. This is a stopover town risk. In FBI-based rankings for 2024, West Memphis shows up near the top among small cities for homicide rate, around 72 per 100,000 residents, with 17 homicides recorded that year. That headline number matters, but what really changes behavior is what happens around the edges of travel. In crime estimates compiled from FBI data, West Memphis has been described as a place where the odds of being a victim of violent crime are about 1 in 41, and property crime about 1 in 21. Even vehicle theft risk is listed at around 1 in 94. You do not need to memorize the math to understand what it means. It means parking lots and quick stops feel different here. People do not stroll. They move with intention. Economically, the town carries pressure too. Census figures put median household income around $41,960, while poverty sits near 27%. That combination often shows up in places where stability feels thin and public trust is easy to lose. And yet West Memphis also has a twist that makes the story feel almost surreal. This is a town with bright lights and big money nearby. Southland Casino Hotel has completed a massive expansion, including a 20-story hotel with 300 rooms, part of a project valued around $320 million. So you can be driving past something that looks like modern entertainment and still hear locals talk like they are giving survival advice. That is the signature of West Memphis. It is not one clear line between good and bad. It is a corridor town, a bridge town, a place built around motion, freight, and short stops, where a small mistake can feel bigger than it should. If you pass through, treat it like an airport layover, not a sightseeing break. Make stops earlier if you can. If you must stop, choose the busiest, brightest option, stay on main routes, keep your doors locked, and never leave anything visible in your car, not even something you think looks worthless. In West Memphis, the danger is not just the destination. It is the moment you assume you can relax because you are only here for a minute. And the next town on this list pushes that same fear even further, because it is another place people underestimate until the locals say, "Don't stop." Number 7. Riverdale, Illinois. Riverdale is the kind of name that can fool you. It sounds harmless, almost suburban and quiet, like a place with a little league field and a river trail. And in a way, that is exactly why it works so well in this list. Riverdale sits on the edge of Chicago's Southland in Cook County, small enough that many people would never recognize it unless they took the wrong exit. But the safety math here does not match the name. In 2024, Riverdale showed up near the very top of national rankings for homicide rate among extra small cities at roughly 69 murders per 100,000 residents. And when you remember the population is only around 10,000 people, that number lands differently. In a place this small, a handful of serious incidents can change the entire feel of a town. Reputation travels faster than improvement. What makes Riverdale especially relevant to the phrase, "don't stop for any reason," is how easy it is to treat it like a quick errand zone. Pull in for gas, hit an ATM, run inside a convenience store for 2 minutes. That is exactly the kind of stop locals think about differently. Crime estimates compiled from FBI data describe Riverdale as a place where your odds of being a victim of violent or property crime are about 1 in 51. Property crime alone is listed around 1 in 71, and motor vehicle theft around 1 in 100. You do not have to live here to understand what those numbers do to behavior. They turn ordinary errands into calculated moves. Riverdale's story also has that Midwest industrial aftertaste. The village grew through waves of manufacturing and rail corridor development, and like a lot of small places tied to bigger city economics, it has had to survive changes that do not show up on postcards. Census figures put median household income around $45,700. That is not comfortable suburb money in the Chicago region, and it helps explain why stability can feel uneven from street to street. So the local rulebook becomes simple. If you pass through, do not improvise. Avoid late, unplanned stops. Keep your head up, your phone down, and your car locked. If you must stop, choose the busiest, brightest option. Stay close to main roads and leave nothing visible in your vehicle, not even something you think looks worthless. In Riverdale, the risk is not that danger is guaranteed. The risk is that the town is small enough for patterns to matter, and the wrong moment can feel bigger than it should. And the next town on this list takes that wrong place to pause feeling and turns it into something even more intense because it is built around movement, not settling down. Number 6, College Park, Georgia. College Park looks like the kind of place you would never put on a danger list. It has tree-lined streets, historic homes, and the feel of a quiet southern suburb that simply happens to sit near Atlanta. In fact, the city even highlights a massive historic district with hundreds of protected structures, the kind of detail that makes you picture porch lights, old brick, and calm evenings. But College Park has a signature most travelers do not see until it is too late. This town lives in the shadow of the airport. Hartsfield-Jackson is not just nearby. It is one of the busiest passenger hubs on the planet, moving around 108 million passengers in 2024. That means constant motion around the edges of College Park, ride shares, shuttles, hotel corridors, parking lots, late arrivals, early departures, people stopping for food, cash, gas, or a quick reset before the next leg of a trip. And places built around nonstop movement often attract the kind of opportunistic trouble that targets moments, not reputations. That is why the numbers hit so hard here. One statewide summary lists College Park with a violent crime rate around 1,071 incidents per 100,000 residents and a property crime rate around 7,064 per 100,000. Another set of estimates translates the risk into a phrase most Americans instantly understand. About 1 in 56 for violent crime, about 1 in 13 for property crime, and roughly 1 in 65 for motor vehicle theft. You do not need to panic to feel what that means. It means you stop differently, you park differently, you leave differently, and the trade-off is not as simple as cheap housing. Recent market estimates put home values around the high 200s, with rents often in the mid-1000s. Meanwhile, median household income sits under $50,000 and roughly 1 in 5 residents is below the poverty line. So you get an uncomfortable equation, a town that is not bargain basement, but still carries the kind of pressure that makes everyday safety feel like something you have to earn. For travelers, the local warning makes sense. College Park is not a place to improvise. Treat it like an airport layover. If you must stop, choose the brightest, busiest options, stay close to main routes, keep your doors locked, keep your head up, and leave nothing visible in your car, not even something that looks worthless. In College Park, the danger is not the skyline. It is the moment you forget that you are standing inside a traffic stream that never sleeps. Number 5. Florida City, Florida. Florida City is not a place most people plan to visit. It is a place they pass through on the way to somewhere beautiful. This is the last major stop at the bottom of the highway map, where Florida's turnpike ends and US 1 begins. From here, you either keep going south toward the Florida Keys or you cut toward Everglades country. On a brochure, it feels like the gateway to paradise. But Florida City has a very different signature in real life. It is a last stop town, and last stop towns carry a specific kind of risk. They are built around quick decisions, a fast gas fill-up, a late-night snack run, a motel parking lot, a 2-minute stop you make because you think you are already safe. And the numbers are hard to ignore. Crime estimates compiled from FBI data describe Florida City with an overall crime rate around 88 incidents per 1,000 residents, and odds of being a victim of either violent or property crime at about 1 in 11. That is the kind of statistic that turns a casual stop into a calculated one. The breakdown is even more unsettling. Property crime is listed around 70.58 per 1,000 residents, which translates to roughly 1 in 14 odds. Violent crime is listed around 17.56 per 1,000, or about 1 in 57. Another statewide ranking lists Florida City as having the highest violent crime victimization rate in Florida, around 1,709 per 100,000. Here's the twist: Florida City is not a sleepy little bargain town anymore. Recent market estimates put typical home values in the mid-300,000s. Rents can be high too, with 2-bedroom estimates around $2,000 a month. Meanwhile, the local median household income sits under $50,000, and about 31% of residents are below the poverty line. So the equation feels tight. High costs, heavy pressure, and a constant stream of outsiders moving through. Day to day, that creates a particular kind of caution. Locals do not warn you because they hate their town. They warn you because they know the most common mistake outsiders make, treating Florida City like a harmless pause before the real trip starts. In a corridor like this, opportunistic crime does not need you to stay long. It only needs you to be distracted. If you pass through Florida City, do what locals do: stop early if you can. If you must stop here, keep it short. Stay in bright, busy places. Keep your doors locked. Keep valuables out of sight, and do not turn a quick break into a long one. Because in Florida City, the danger is not hidden in some far corner. It lives in the assumption that the last stop is always safe. Number 4. Laurinburg, North Carolina. Laurinburg looks like the kind of small-town North Carolina stop you would never worry about. A quiet sandhills community with a modest downtown, local diners, and that nothing ever happens here, energy you feel when the streets get empty after dark. But Laurinburg's signature is pure contradiction. It is small enough to feel invisible, yet its risk profile shows up in national crime rankings in a way that shocks people. This town has a population just under 15,000. And in 2024, it recorded 9 homicides, which works out to roughly 60 per 100,000 residents in FBI-based compilations. That is the kind of statistic that makes people pause, because the absolute number sounds small, but the rate is not. In a town this size, a handful of serious incidents can reshape the entire atmosphere, and the local reputation travels faster than any improvement. The reason Laurinburg fits the warning, "Don't stop for any reason," is not just the numbers. It is the geography. The town sits on major routes like US 74 and US 401, and it is only minutes from Interstate 95. That makes it a classic road trip pit stop. People do not come here to explore. They come here because they are tired, they need gas, they need a restroom, or they need a quick motel night before getting back on the highway. Even local tourism info points to a hotel district right off an exit. The kind of detail that tells you how many travelers cycle through without ever learning the town. And the day-to-day crime estimates reinforce why locals think in pit stop rules. Using FBI-based estimates, Laurinburg's overall crime rate has been listed around 60.52 incidents per 1,000 residents, with odds of being a victim of violent or property crime at about 1 in 17. Property crime odds are listed around 1 in 23 and violent crime around 1 in 58. Again, you do not need to memorize the math, you just need to understand what it does to behavior. It makes people keep stopped short. It makes people avoid improvising late. It makes parking lots feel like places you move through, not places you linger. Economically, the pressure is real too. Median household income is around $39,000, while poverty is roughly 32%. Housing can look cheap on paper, but that affordability comes with trade-offs. And Laurinburg has another quiet twist. A local university, St. Andrews, permanently closed in 2025, removing one more stabilizing rhythm from a small town that already feels thin. So if you pass through Laurinburg, think like a local. Stop earlier if you can. If you must stop here, pick bright, busy locations, stay near main roads, keep your doors locked, and leave nothing visible in your car. In a town like this, the risk is not just what happens. The risk is how easily a tired traveler can become careless. Number 3, Chester, Pennsylvania. Chester sits on the Delaware River, just a short drive from Philadelphia, and at first glance it can look like a waterfront comeback story. You have a stadium on the river, you have bright lights, event traffic, and a casino that never really sleeps. On certain nights, the area feels like a destination. People come in, park, watch a game, grab a drink, and head back out like it is just another stop in the metro. But Chester's signature is this. It is a spotlight city with a shadow that starts only a few wrong turns away. In FBI-based compilations for 2024, Chester shows up among the highest murder rate small cities in the country, around 59 per 100,000 residents, with 20 homicides recorded that year. That number is not just a headline. It is a signal that the risk here is not limited to one isolated story. It is baked into the way locals think about movement, timing, and where you choose to pause. And this is where the phrase, "locals warn, don't stop for any reason," starts to make sense. Chester is built around flow. Subaru Park sits right on the waterfront, and the stadium itself points visitors to ramps from I-95 and the Commodore Barry Bridge to get in and out. In other words, the city is connected to highways and bridges that move people fast. That is convenient for fans. It is also the kind of environment where outsiders can underestimate what it means to park in the wrong place at the wrong time, with the wrong assumptions. Crime risk estimates compiled from FBI data put Chester's violent crime odds around 1 in 81 and property crime odds around 1 in 26. Those numbers translate into the kind of street-level habits people build without even thinking. Keep stops short, keep your head up, and treat your vehicle like it is part of your personal space. Because in a city like this, the most common mistake is not going somewhere bad. The most common mistake is drifting off the planned route because you thought you were still in the event zone. Chester also carries the weight of a post-industrial past. It grew as a river and rail city, and like many older industrial places, it has lived through deep economic swings. Census figures put median household income around $39,809, with poverty around 30.8%. That is not a moral judgment. It is context. Long-term pressure changes what normal feels like, and it widens the gap between a shiny waterfront night and the daily reality a few blocks away. So if you visit Chester for a game or a casino trip, treat it like a planned mission. Park where you are supposed to park, stick to main routes, keep your car empty and locked, And do not turn a quick detour into an adventure. In Chester, the danger is not the skyline. It is the assumption that the spotlight covers the whole city. Number 2, Prichard, Alabama. Prichard is not a town most people plan to visit, it is a town people pass through. Locals even call it the crossroads of Mobile County, and you can feel that in the layout. Highways and interstates cut through, cars move fast, and the city often looks like a place you should keep moving, not a place you should linger. But Prichard's signature is darker than a simple high crime label. In Prichard, danger feels layered. It is crime, yes, but it is also the kind of town where basic systems have been strained for so long that everyday life can feel like a constant emergency drill. Start with the numbers that shape habits. Crime estimates compiled from FBI data describe Prichard with odds of becoming a victim of violent or property crime at about 1 in 26. Violent crime alone is listed around 1 in 81. Property crime is listed around 1 in 39. Even motor vehicle theft risk is estimated around 1 in 194. You do not have to live here to understand what that does to behavior. It changes how people park. It changes how long they stay in a lot. It changes whether "I'll just run inside for a second" feels like a normal sentence. Now add the pressure beneath the surface. Prichard's median household income is listed around $35,331, and roughly 32% of residents live below the poverty line. That kind of long-term strain does not create crime by itself, but it does shape a community's margin for safety. When a town is squeezed for decades, it gets harder to keep services strong, harder to keep trust high, and easier for routine problems to turn into constant anxiety. And here is the twist that makes Prichard stand out on this list. The city has faced a water system crisis so severe that reporting has described it losing around 60% of its drinking water through leaks. Regulators have called parts of the system in dire condition. Think about how that lands psychologically. In some places, the fear is what happens at night. In Prichard, the fear can start in daylight with the question of whether the basics will work the way they should. Even public safety resources have been under strain. Local reporting has described how the Mobile County Sheriff's Office has stepped in to handle major crime investigations because Prichard's own police department has faced critical staffing shortages. That does not mean help never arrives. It means response capacity can feel stretched and locals plan accordingly. So if you pass through Prichard, treat it like a town where you do not improvise. Make stops earlier if you must stop. Pick the busiest, brightest location. Keep your doors locked, keep your head up, and do not turn a short errand into a long pause. In Prichard, the warning is not theatrical, it is practical. Because here, the risk is not just one thing. It is the feeling that too many things are strained at once. Number 1, Lumberton, North Carolina. Lumberton is the kind of town America is built to stop in. It sits right on the spine of the East Coast along Interstate 95 with easy access to the I-74 corridor. The city itself markets the idea that this is the perfect halfway break between New York and Florida. And that is what makes Lumberton the number 1 entry on this list, because the most dangerous places are not always the ones you plan to visit. Sometimes they are the ones designed to catch you when you are tired, hungry, and ready to pull off the road. Lumberton's signature is simple. It is the perfect stopover trap. When a town's main identity is "stop here," the risk is not only what happens in neighborhoods, the risk is what happens in parking lots, at gas stations, near motel entrances, and during that 2-minute moment when you tell yourself, "I'll just be quick." Crime estimates compiled from FBI data describe Lumberton with violent crime odds around 1 in 50 and property crime odds around 1 in 9. Another statewide summary lists it with violent crime around 2,018 per 100,000 residents and property crime around 11,955 per 100,000. You do not need to remember every digit. You only need to understand the message. This is a place where the most common mistake is treating a stop like it is automatically safe. The economics behind the town also explain why the atmosphere can feel tense. Census figures put median household income around $43,000, while poverty sits near 31%. Lumberton is not a huge city, roughly around 19,000 people, but it is the biggest hub in its county. That means it carries the weight of services, traffic, and pressure that a small place does not always have the resources to handle. And here is the twist that makes Lumberton even more unsettling for travelers. This is not only a crime story, it is also a getting stuck story. Lumberton has a history of severe flooding, including documented flooding near the I-95 crossing at the Lumber River. In other words, the same town you choose for a quick break can become a town you cannot easily leave if weather turns ugly. That is how a routine stop becomes a long problem. So the local warning fits perfectly. Do not stop for any reason unless you have a plan. If you must stop, stop early. Choose bright and crowded locations, stay on main routes, keep your doors locked, keep valuables out of sight, and do not let fatigue talk you into a careless decision. In Lumberton, the danger is not always an obvious threat. It is the moment you relax because the exit looks normal. That is why locals say the same thing again and again. Keep moving. Tonight's list is not about trashing places or painting every street with the same brush. It is about patterns, the kind locals learn the hard way. Certain towns are built around quick stops, and quick stops can turn into the most expensive minute of your trip. Across these 10 locations, the warning is consistent. Do not improvise. Plan your fuel, keep your stops bright and busy, and treat every parking lot like part of the road, not a break from it. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever pulled off the highway in a town that felt off the second you parked? What was the one detail that made you leave early? Drop your story in the comments. It helps other travelers more than you think. If you want a part 2 with 10 more towns and real-world travel rules, hit like, subscribe, and tell me which state we should investigate next.